Don't have my mallet tonight, but good evening. Welcome to the May 23rd, 2018 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Thank you. We're called to order. And we will start with voting the minutes of the May 16th meeting. I haven't read them. Has anybody read them?
I didn't, I wasn't here, so I don't think I feel competent.
Okay, and I wasn't here, so we need a motion to defer these.
Make a motion to defer them to the next meeting.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. All right, request for a continuance under a notice of intent. Helmus Circle LLC, care of Randall Lilly, Worcester Court and Alma Road. This has been read into the record several times, so I'm not going to read it into the record again. So they're requesting a continuance. Mark, do we have a date?
For,
Helmus Circle,
I think you
the
have, yes,
Little Pond project.
Little Pond request, excuse me. We would like a continuance to 5/23 hearing date, from the 5/23 hearing date to 6/6 to allow time for peer review of the coastal bank.
Okay.
So moved.
We have a ton of things on that agenda.
Yeah.
New things. So I'm not
So the 16th?
entirely comfortable with approving that.
What's the next available date?
Well, we can't choose it.
Yeah.
So I think don't we have to vote for that date? And
I guess
then
we do,
You should
yeah.
call them up and ask them to continue it to a further date. Okay?
Like coming back from vacation.
But you have to make a,
We have to
We
vote
have
that
to vote.
because they asked
That's
it.
what they requested, yeah, okay.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous. So moved, June 6th.
So could you make a note to call them? Thanks.
Next continuance under an NOI. William Newton, 46 Waterside Avenue, Falmouth, Massachusetts,
What happened to this
for
one?
permission to upgrade existing wastewater treatment system and to remove and replace invasive species with native species, along with all associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Do we have a date for that?
Madam Chairman, they would like to continue to the 6th also.
Mike, can we talk about that?
The reason I'm asking for continuance is, one, we changed the landscape plan in response to the staff, so that didn't get in the week before. But the Board of Health needs about 2 more or 3 more pieces of information, and then they're probably going to approve it. So, how about the 13th? Are you here for the 13th? Isn't that Flag Day?
Flag Day's the 14th.
Oh.
And I don't think that would
And-
be a day we wouldn't have a meeting.
I don't think it is either, and I haven't seen anything for that meeting yet, so I don't think we're too loaded up.
It should be a cakewalk.
It's not going to be a cakewalk.
You want to make a
Do we have
motion?
a meeting that night? Is that what we're trying to do?
I'm not gonna comment.
I think, for some reason, I don't think we have a meeting that night.
Let me see. He might be able to tell us. He might be right. Down here.
June.
It's the 20th that we don't have a meeting, June 20th.
Okay, at the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this to June 13th.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Thank you, Mike. Okay, moving along to request for determination of applicability. Old Silver Beach Homeowners Association, 0 Tonsett Road, map 13-10-000-000A, North Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to conduct beach maintenance activities on Lot A and Lot 1A.
Hey, Madam Chairman, I wonder if we could open both at the same time because they're
sorry,
for the
yes.
same.
Okay. Okay, so the other one is Old Silver Beach Homeowners Association, 0 Santuit Road, map Also map 13-10-000-00010, -001A, North Falmouth, Massachusetts. Also for permission to conduct beach maintenance activities on Lot A and Lot 1A.
Madam, staff's recommendation is a -2 under the state and the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed by this RDA.
No, so moved.
Second.
And that's for both.
Yes,
And that's, my second is for both also.
thank you. All right, any questions or comments from the board? Anything from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Now we move to requests for hearings under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. So, first we have Michelle Simurian, 21 Bay Road, Woods Hole, Falmouth, for permission to construct an addition, install a Title V sewage disposal system upgrade, expand an existing patio, retaining walls, and associated clearing, excavating, grading, utilities, native mitigation plantings, and landscaping. Thank you, Mike. Do you have a butters cards?
Yeah, you already
You have
did,
it? Okay.
handed it in.
My name is Michael McGrath. I'm a registered professional engineer and a registered professional land surveyor, and Holmes and McGrath prepared the notice of intent. Accompanying me tonight is Maria Key and Greg Jones, the architect. So what I've done is I have handed you a copy of that colored graphic, and I also included some blow-ups of 2 pages that are in the notice of intent. This parcel, first off, if you've been to the site, that's an absolutely beautiful site. In the narrative, there is a description of outstanding orders. There's a little chart that describes there were 4 orders dating back 20 years. Actually, the newest one is 20 years old. And it turns out there was some work that has never been done that was described in the notice. So, I'm sorry, that was required in the orders. So part of what we're going to do tonight is to seek permission to not only provide enough plants to meet your performance standards for work in the resource area A and resource area B, but we're also showing that we're going to plant enough to offset the plants that are missing. And so if I could just go to the graphic. If you've been to the site, you come in a long driveway, and there's a very substantial house that's overlooking Vineyard Sound off of Fay Road. And the building is long and it's parallel. The resource areas are, this is Vineyard Sound, then there's a velocity zone, but it's way down at the base. And so this coastal bank is quite high. Then there is a lawn area that's behind the house, a patio. And then there's a long walkway that goes down to a brick walk and then a set of stairs. At the base, there's a very interesting shore protection in that they've driven in steel sheathing. Then they have piles that form a triangle to hold it up, and then there's ripple wrap placed in front of it. I don't think I've ever seen that system before. But in any case, the new work that's going to be is we're going to construct this addition. There's an existing septic system that's going to be too small, so we're showing a brand new system, and it's outside of jurisdiction except for the septic tank. And this is the location of the septic system, and your jurisdiction is this pink line. Inside, the other activities they're going to do is they're going to add on to the stone patio. There's going to be a few retaining walls that are constructed. And the reason I gave you this was that it's hard to see some of these little details. And it's important that you understand how we calculated the area. So if we can look at the second sheet, it has redevelopment and planting notes, and it describes in general the areas that add up to provide enough for not only the original 4 orders, but also for the additions in the resource area A and B. We're required 1,963 square feet for the mitigation for the alterations on site. And then we have to replace some lawn. There's 800 square feet of lawn that's between the house and the ocean, and that was required in one of the orders. Then there's restoration plants and then invasive removal of native planting. So the total area is 5,575 square feet that's going to be planted of woody indigenous plants. And then I think it's best for Maria Hickey to come up and describe the different species that she specified.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Maria Hickey from Maria Hickey Landscapes. If you want to just pass this down, I have pictures of a similar project. Before, after the invasives removal, and then the subsequent planting. And that last page, that's not even a year after the planting. Mark, for your reference, that's the one on Church Street that I had shown you. So Mark was gracious to come out and meet with us on site for a pre-hearing meeting. And I wanted to first start off by saying that we are under contract with the client to perform all the work associated with the landscaping and compliance on the property. And the other thing I wanted to mention is we love it when you put in the order of conditions that we're going to have a meeting with Mark on site before any work starts, because then that actually names a person that on staff that we've already set all the footwork and isn't, green to the case. So anyhow, for those of you who had the pleasure to go out there, you'll see if you walked down the walkway towards the ocean, which I hope you did, it was a beautiful day today, that there is not a fabulous understory. The plants that were put in years ago are crowded out on their light by the invasive locust trees and a bunch of bittersweet and honeysuckle, et cetera, et cetera. And so the existing mitigation plants have gotten very tall and leggy. So as part of the work that we do, we are going to remove the non-native invasive locust trees to open up some sunlight so that we can plant a dense understory, which will be almost identical to that third picture. It's Rosa virginiana, bayberry, and then we're going to also add in pockets of winterberry to provide additional food for the birds and border it all with sweet fern. On the backside of the walkway, we'd like to add in some additional trees and some blueberry bushes when we are doing our work. And then as you move up the stairs towards the house and the patio, there is a section of lawn that we're going to remove, and we're going to replace a small section of that lawn with native perennials so that we can provide habitat value and a pollinator garden to pollinate our blueberry bushes, our winterberries, and provide food for the birds. And I've listed in the application the native perennials that we would be using. Additionally, on the back side of that fence that borders the lawn, we are going to remove the ivy and some of the other invasive plantings, and we're going to replace those non-native invasive plants with Rosa virginiana because it has a fabulous ability to creep down a slope. It sends lateral roots below the ground, and it's a fabulous erosion control plant. Does a much better job than what's here right now. And additionally, Mark and I made a few notes. You know, we'll make like a couple of minor tweaks to the landscape plan in-house administratively, just, you know, where our lines between the sweet fern and the Rosa virginiana are going to be up past the flagpole. And for the most part, we will be doing this work in September and replanting in a dense formation, as you can see in that third picture that I gave you on the handout, with our trees going in the spring, because my thought is always to put trees in at the beginning of the growing season, which gives them much greater chances of not just surviving, but thriving, rather than, you know, you put them in the fall and you're asking them to root in and go through the hardest time of the year. But when this project is finished, it is going to offer a much greater level of habitat value for your native wildlife, nesting songbirds, birds and butterflies and bees, because certainly over the number of years that we've been doing these projects, when we add in those pollinating perennials, it is so excited. I don't know if any of you went down to the Falmouth Mall when we worked on that project, but literally, while I was staging plants, I had hummingbirds coming in, butterflies. I think, Mark, I might have sent you some videos. I blew up your phone a little bit there. But I was like so excited to see this happen. So at the end of the day, we envision a nice densely planted understory, similar to the one down the street on Church Street that we did do. And that also has a similar exposure. We have all the wind coming off of Vineyard Sound, salt spray, et cetera, et cetera. And I would say that that landscape has not only survived, but it thrived. Because in that third picture, that was not even a year later that I took that. And certainly now, I think we might even be in the third year. It's spectacular. And that's the same type of look that we're trying to create. Do you have any questions that I could answer?
Thank you, Maria. Mark, do you have any questions or comments about this project?
I'll wait till after
Okay.
the commission finishes. Thank you.
Mark?
So am I to understand that this area, which is, sort of has green spots on, is going to be completely stripped out? And
Yes, because it has locust trees in it right
does?
now. So in order to get the
some other
locust trees,
shrubby-
yeah,
Not very shrubby trees. So that's going to look like this, and then it may look like this.
it will when it's all
hopefully.
done.
I did notice that on the top of the bank, right opposite the patio, there was a whole lot of lopping going on.
Yes.
What are we going to do about that?
So we're going to plant plants to prevent that from happening in the future. And we talked, you know, with Mark about that. The species of plants to put in would be primarily more Rosa virginiana that's going to go down the bank versus things that are going to grow up in their view fields, because it's,
So all
You have to-
those plants that are currently being lopped are going to be taken out?
yes, and replaced with native shrubs. And then above that area is where we're going to have the pollinator garden, and that's going to also be bordered by Rosa
Why don't you
virginiana.
point that out?
Sure.
I'm not quite sure.
Okay. So the area that you're referring to
Right-
was
right-
right here, it's right on the backside
From there
of
and
the
on
fence.
up, opposite the patio, right?
It's right here, it's right
that
here
whole
on the back.
area, yes.
And we have to remove lawn anyhow, as part of the old order. So we thought while we're in there, I mean, the shrubs are pretty maligned, for lack of a better word, and we're just going to remove them and replace them with new, more suitable plantings, and, you know, go all the way. There's a lot of English ivy in there that Mark and I were taking a look at, and it's very important to get that out of there because it is starting to go up the trees, which we don't want to have
So
happen.
at the top of the bank, that will be sort of the demarcation line
Yes.
between, don't strip it out, strip it out. everything on the bank, of course, will stay as it is.
Exactly. Just on the very top where it's flat.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Peter?
With the 1998 order of conditions for taking the lawn out and putting in bushes, is that, which area was that in the 1998? I'm questioning it because I'm not sure if you have transposed the plantings and the lawn since the 1998 order of
Do you want to speak to that?
Yes.
So I don't say it in the wrong spot.
The 1998 order says there's not to be no more than 2,000 square feet between the house and Vineyard Sound. So we've created 2,000 square feet of lawn between the house and Vineyard Sound. We're taking out 800 square feet of extra lawn.
Okay. So it says between the house and the coastal bank?
Yes.
Okay. Now, while you are holding the microphone, I was out at the site, and all the drawings say to north of the stone patio, there are 2 trees and a flagpole. You can see.
Yes, there is.
And one of the trees, according to the map or drawing, is a maple, and I don't think that's correct.
There's a 10-inch maple, a 10-inch sycamore, and a flagpole.
Looks like 10-inch sycamore, both not a maple. Just,
Then my surveyors made a mistake.
okay.
So, but that's
Okay.
that's like a typo, we can easily fix it.
Okay.
No more questions.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Courtney?
No questions.
Kevin?
The addition to the house is the same footprint as included in a previous proposal that was dropped, or is it different?
I believe it's completely different, right? But that was in 1994 or something like that.
Yeah, Greg Jones, the architect. My business partner, Kit Wise, did the schematic for the 1998 or addition. The one we're proposing now is quite a bit different. The genesis of this, as big as that house is, there's no first floor bedroom. The Samorians are, I'm guessing they're in their 70s, so they're looking to put a first floor bedroom on. So it's quite a bit different than what they envisioned, God, 20 years ago.
Okay,
Is that all, Kevin?
thank you.
Betsy?
So, Mike, it looks to me like where you're proposing this addition is a 20-inch oak. It's a 20-inch oak that obviously cannot be in the same place that the addition is.
There's one that stays and one that doesn't.
Yes, there's one that stays and one that doesn't.
And you've mentioned a number of locust trees. I'm wondering if you could tell us, and there's also a holly that's going to be removed. I'm wondering if you can tell us the number of trees and the caliber inch.
To be honest, Mark and I didn't count the locust trees. There's just a section of them. I wouldn't say the caliper on them is any more than 4 to 6 inches. They were just tall and skinny.
And in the future,
Yeah.
whenever you're doing a landscape and there's any removal of trees, you're supposed to give us number of trees and caliper inch. I mean, that's what's in the regulations. And then from that, you propose what the mitigation is going to be for that.
Betsy, there are 5 proposed trees clearly shown on.
Well, I see that, but I would like to have
a number.
a number. And I would also, where those 5 proposed trees are, I would like some of those proposed trees to be put in the area where you're going to be removing some of the locusts.
If we do that, we won't be able to have the understory, because that's the current issue that we have right now. The canopy of the trees is blocking the sun, so the native shrubs that were put in before for mitigation got really leggy and skinny and deformed trying to get the sunlight. So the whole purpose of this, of the voluntary removal of the non-native locust trees, is to provide sun so that we can plant like we did in that third picture that I showed you on Church Street.
Well, that may be true, but the fact is, trees provide much better stability for the soil.
That doesn't need stability.
We're putting Rosa virginiana, which actually creates a dense
I know what it does.
horizontal layer of roots.
But I would like you to go, and also I want to say, Mark should not have to be planning these, but I would like to read, well, we can do this in deliberation, but I'd like to rethink where some of the trees are in that area. Also, where you're having your perennial garden, we'll be requiring some kind of a fence, a delineation, maybe similar. I mean, that split rail fence that's there is going to have to come down anyway.
Actually, that's going to stay.
Well, it's going to have to move then. It's going to have to move to delineate this perennial garden. Because if there's one thing we've learned, it's easy to run a lawnmower past the lawn.
Did you actually look at the fence? The posts are not wood. It's some type of, it almost looks like
It's
fossilized
stone.
rock, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, then
it would
you
not
can
be possible to get a lawnmower in there.
No, there would definitely be possible to put a lawnmower where you're going to planning to put perennials. So if you want to establish an additional fence, you can do that. But I want to have a clear delineation with a physical structure between the lawn and the perennials. And then the last thing I had was, Mike, I appreciate the fact that you're trying to clear up some of the outstanding certificates of compliances around, and I would hope that this particular notice will clear all those up, right? I mean, that's your goal, right?
Absolutely, we identified them.
Right.
We identified how we're going to make up for them. So obviously, the goal is to satisfy what was conditioned between 94 and 98.
Right, which is great. And I do want to agree with you. I think that, I love Courtney's house. I love the view from Courtney's house. But the view today from that house is one of the most spectacular views I've seen in Falmouth. It's really beautiful, and it'll be nice when everything's kind of refreshed with this project.
Rather than put another fence and have two fences, there are these markers that we put up in Concord, Massachusetts that stick up and they mark edge of wetlands. And those would be preferable, I think, to the.
Yeah, I'm not saying we shouldn't be designing what would be done. I just want something permanent that's clear.
I don't remember the name of them. I think they're called fennel markers, but I can get you a written description. And in Concord, we had a client that mowed too far, and so we went back and put these markers, and then they stick up, and they're like every 25 feet, so.
Yeah. No, you know, a lot of times we'll say a split rail fence, but if somebody wants something other than a split rail fence that will still serve the same purpose, that's fine.
Mary?
Yes, go ahead, Marie. You look confused.
I just wanted to make one additional comment on Betsy's comment about wanting to put trees where the locust trees are. It is a steep enough slope, and it's very, very windy. we don't have native trees that have survived there before, and it's a very similar exposure like how he did at 158 Church Street. I'd hate to see a situation that for 3 years, we're chasing, putting in new trees and disrupting that slope because they can't handle the wind.
It's a perfect slope for cedar trees.
With that wind, they burn. I'm just speaking from
Cedar
experience.
trees are all over this area,
Yeah.
right by the water. You start with a lower tree, smaller tree size, and it adapts.
I will tell you, a wigwam that's an exposed site like this, they are perpetually replacing the trees. Your order requires them to be a certain size, they put them in, and 50% of them die off. So they're constantly bringing the new trees in.
In
I just
areas
don't-
like that, they should start out with smaller tree sizes that adapt to the conditions. That's how a tree grows.
Well,
Let's-
then I'm
let's
in
not have
conflict
this-
with your
I know.
order, so
Ping pong.
we'll have to talk about that some more.
And I also wanted to mention on a site that we're working next door, they planted probably 20 6-foot cedars, and they lost every single one of them. It's another landscape company, and I've seen it happen twice in the wind.
I would not recommend a 6-foot cedar.
But you said start smaller so that they have time to grow. I guess I'm just in conflict because we want to do what is the best planting given the site conditions. And having done this for over 25 years and having the trees set back a little bit where I have all of my native shrubs to take the wind and create that bluff, for lack of a better word, works very well. And those trees are in front of their new addition, so it's not like it's still going to screen some of their view. So it's not like in other words, no matter which side of that walkway you put the trees on, their view is screened. We're proposing to put it on the side.
Their view will be framed.
But we're proposing to put them on the side where they're going to have a much greater chance to thrive, but most importantly, to provide that understory that has not been able to grow in previous attempts. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents. Sorry.
Okay, well, I imagine this will get taken up again in deliberation.
I think Mark, do you have another comment?
Mark?
I'm a little confused by your discussion about erosion or worried about, I just looked at the picture I took at that site. There's no hint of any water damage or potential for water damage going down that green speckled area.
I think when Mark and I were up there, it was more this area up here.
Okay, yeah, we're talking about this big area. That's where we're talking about trees and whatever else. And there's no need to worry about, as I can see, any erosion issues or erosion control. We're looking at aesthetics, aren't we? I mean, that's what we're looking at. What we're proposing here is aesthetics. It's not anything else. And there's a few bushes under there. It looks to me as if anything else, nothing was planted there, which is why it's not growing. There are a few rather stringy trees. Now, I don't know if they're locusts. I don't know. They look sort of really stringy and unattractive.
So this area right here that has the locust trees, the mitigation plantings, beach plum and a few other things, were put in this area, and they didn't have adequate sunlight because of the tree canopy. So they grew tall and skinny to try to reach for the sky. I have another case where we had the same discussion, and the board wanted us to put in more trees in an area that would mean then less understory. So on this entire project, and it's on Knobsker Road, every single place that we planted the understory looks like that third picture, except for where we were required to put the trees. All the shrubs in that area are tall and skinny and struggling to survive. So I'm just coming from a horticultural,
I'm coming from a wildlife point of view, that we like to have a diversity of vegetation in these areas, and they serve different purposes from a physical point of view and
Yeah.
a biological point of view.
Absolutely agree. And we believe that we are offering a wide range of diversity in our plant types, and everywhere with inside the 100, and then even outside the 100, we're going to do some invasive species work and replant a strong understory. And Mark and I had talked about that, because again, we want to provide a greater habitat value than what exists right now. And there's a saying, do it once, do it right. So that's why I'm arguing with you. Because I feel passionately about,
I'm not going to argue, I have the information,
Yeah.
what you've presented to us.
You got
And
it.
we'll have a discussion in deliberation.
you got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marie. Mark?
I just wanted to summarize, so back in, I think it was early March, Brendan and I went out to meet Jeff Johnson from Holmes McGrath to go over, the old orders. I think there were 2 or 3 of them. And, some of these are quite complex, so you got to figure out, well, what was required for mitigation versus what was agreed upon as just, planting that was going to be done. So he explained all that on the site, the numbers seem to add up and everything. So as far as meeting the old orders, I think that's, in compliance. Now, some of the discussion points, though, was mentioned about the cutting on the bank. Yeah, we mentioned that, on both site visits too. The cutting on the bank is also on trees that are, down lower on the bank, which should, absolutely stop. I don't know, because you were talking about things on the very top of the bank, Maria.
Yes.
There wasn't much there. Most of it was, a little bit further down, things that aren't going to be disturbed.
Correct.
There's also, everybody wants a view too. You realize that that bank is like a 2-to-1 slope, so it's really hard to get down there to do anything anyway. As far as the vista prune regulations go, I think that can be worked out, but we just have to make sure we're on the same page, though, as far, and probably put some conditions in the order that this needs to be figured out before the order is completed. There is some work that Marie and company are doing just to sort of address the invasive species. There's vines growing in some of the trees along the slope they're going to pull out. As far as the Virginia rose on the top of the bank, yeah, it's not so much that the bank is eroding over there, but what's more important is it's the invasive species that are there. So on 2 fronts, one, when you plant natives, you want to sort of keep, sort of a buffer away from them. And number 2, some of the stuff that some of the work that other restoration experts have shown is that, if you have a bank that's entirely invasive, then you don't have the understory structure. So it's, if you look down below, under the shrubs, it's probably, some bare dirt for the most part. Again, that is, as the commissioner said, it is a stable bank. But, and if you had the lawn that was going like this, that would be, you would have a noticeable issue with the erosion. But I think the primary reason is to keep, the invasive stuff from coming in. So that addresses the slope. And so, like I said, we met out there with Jeff, then we met out there again, last week or 2 weeks ago with Maria, because when Jeff showed us what was going on, it was more just to figure out, all right, this is the way it's going to meet the regulations and as far as meeting the old orders and conditions. So there was some initial information put down on the plan that says how this is going to be done. Maria then, added her input on how, the vegetation is going to be planted. One of the questions that came up, that Jen had asked too, is how is the work going to be done? Is it going to be done by hand or with machinery? And I guess you said that you are going to have like a mini
excavator.
Because then, because you can't go down that slope, and it's not that you're going to go very far anyway, but it's better to reach some of that stuff and get it out of there. The other question I had was, I guess, more for Greg. So you were saying about starting this in the fall, Maria?
Correct.
Yeah, so Greg, when were you planning on starting the the actual housework?
We were going to start it last year, and then we discovered all these unfulfilled order conditions. So the thinking was we'd be putting it out to bid during the summer and start in the fall as well. And we'd coordinate our work with Maria's crew so that we're not stepping on each other's toes. It's not a big project, so the foundation work will go fairly quickly. It's basically two rooms, 2 stories, so it's not a terribly large project. The landscaping stuff, frankly, and conservation stuff is probably on par with the construction end. So the goal would be to start sometime in the fall as well after the summer season.
All right, because that was the only concern, to make sure that Maria can get in there to do some of that work. And,
Yep.
there's still plenty of room.
Yeah, and we'll coordinate with her crew to make sure everybody's on the same page.
And, and again, when we were talking about some of the plantings, yeah, we sort of agreed that some of this stuff will need to shift a little bit so it's in more, open areas. There are, that's one of the things too, all the trees that are under 6 inches aren't always shown. Because one of the definitions, I disagree with it entirely about that a tree is a tree if it's 6 inches or more in caliper inch. And there's some sites where you can have trees that are like this and you have, 100 of them. You obviously can't put all that, but there are some other trees in that area right near the bank on the south side of the property that we're talking about, like the locust that Maria was talking about replacing. And we did talk about, there was at least a tupelo or 2 in that section.
Correct.
That would be put. But the idea is it would keep it more open, because, you could see what happened to the shrubs that were planted there before. So, overall, I think it's, they did their homework, and I think the commission had great comments too.
And I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
One moment, Mike.
I just want to say, with the understanding I'm going to be able to fix the label on that tree, correct?
Of course.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Yes.
Mark?
I'm sorry, as I walk down the brick path towards the water, on the right-hand side, there's rather heavy, some type of evergreen, low shrubbery about this high. That's all going to be stripped out too?
That's all going to remain.
It's going, okay, it's hard to
So
tell.
either
that.
side of the path, and we're going to add supplemental plantings where needed.
So we'll be planting in back of that where there's
Correct.
some grass, but
Correct.
that shrubbery will stay.
Correct.
Thank
It
you.
already offers nice habitat value.
It
so
does.
We'd like to keep it.
Thank you.
All right, anything else from the board? Anything from the public? All right, all those in favor of closing the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Okay, continued request for a hearing under a notice of intent, William Newton, 46 Waterside Avenue. This has been continued to June 13th. And Helmus Circle has been continued to June 6th.
But probably to be changed.
But probably to be changed, hopefully to be changed. So we move on to requests to extend the existing order of conditions. So these are 3 separate items. Lisa Huffman, 7 Swing Lane, Falmouth, Massachusetts, DEP number 25-4011, requesting a 2-year extension. And Mark, do you know what the expiration date is on this?
Set to expire June 11, 2018. So they had made requests before, the 1 month.
They started work, what's the project?
Yes, it's basically a house project along with an in-ground swimming pool. They're requesting 2 years with the desired contractor pool company because there's limited installation season in New England. So it's really just to do the pool, not, any of the house, so most of the work is already done.
Why are they requesting 2 years, do you know?
Well, here they said, requesting 2 years of scheduling with the desired contractor pool company in the limited installation season of New England would otherwise put me in a position of asking for yet another extension next year. So they're basically saying that, they can't get it done until, probably past next June.
I think typically we only give
Give a
a 1
year.
year extension.
Right.
If they need to extend it again, they can always come in and ask.
Yeah. You want to make that motion?
I'll move to extend it for 1 year.
Second.
Any discussion on the board for this? Anything from the public? All right, we'll vote on the motion to extend this order by 1 year. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Excuse me. Town of Falmouth, 55 Old Dock Road, West Falmouth, Massachusetts, DEP number 25-4073, requesting a 1-year extension. And again, we would like to know the expiration date. Town of Falmouth, Old Dock Road.
Sorry, Madam Chairman, I don't have a note to that effect. I mean, this has to do with the Harbor Masters project along, Old Dock Road with the pier. And from what I understand is they have some modifications they want to add to the pier, and they would be coming before the commission for an amendment.
So is this
That's
still
a little-
open?
I'm a little confused about that. So they're planning to submit a request for an amendment, but they want to keep the existing order open. Is that what we're talking about?
Correct.
That makes sense.
Okay.
So moved. Is this
Second.
for a year?
Yes, 1 year.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Next, we have Town of Falmouth, Falmouth Beaches, Falmouth, Massachusetts, DEP 25-3493, requesting a 5-year extension.
And Madam Chairman, so this is the regular beach maintenance program that they filed a number of years ago for beach management, throughout Falmouth. And, over the years, they have been, from our standpoint, they've been very cooperative in meeting the terms of, best management practices and doing the beach and being in compliance with the order of conditions.
And this is covering all the public beaches.
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Next, we have vote orders of conditions. And seeing that I am not on the quorum for any of these,
Nor is Courtney, so they're going to be leaving.
yes, I would propose to
Yeah.
hand the, think of the word.
Okay, those of you who are escaping early, can you make sure that there are enough signatures over there?
Yeah, I did sign. And before I do this, I would just say, if nobody is planning to bring up other business, then I would like to excuse myself. All right.
You can do that one, and then that one's done.
All right.
And that one.
Do you have a quorum for these?
Yes.
And Courtney as well.
You couldn't
Thank
help
you
us
for the
anyway. Can you
indulgence.
just make sure that everything, you've signed everything?
Yeah, I'll sign it.
These two are done now. Make sure I get it in the right town hall square. Is,
Here's your gavel.
oh, it appeared for me?
If there's one that sneaks in there that I gotta stay for, I'm happy.
These are fine. I don't think so. Aren't these all the ones we closed last week?
Yeah, so there isn't a quorum for Cape Cod, though,
Is that right?
because my list shows, so Peter, Kevin, Betsy.
Courtney wasn't on it?
No, Courtney wasn't here last week.
I was here, not here last
Kevin was
week,
here
so.
last week.
I was here.
Right, so it says Peter, Kevin, and Betsy.
Mark missed one?
Mark?
Yep.
Were you here last week?
Yes.
Well, he might have missed an earlier one.
Yep.
Yeah, you missed the first one. So it would have been Steve, Jamie, and Maury, would have been the others.
Okay, yeah, and Steve just had to not attend it was a last minute thing. So before I go, I guess we need to reschedule something for that, or at least agree on how it's going to be rescheduled.
Well, it probably has to go out before next Wednesday,
Yes.
so it probably should be rescheduled for, you can't reschedule now until Monday, right?
And Monday's a
Monday's
holiday.
So Tuesday would be the,
Well, then it will be Tuesday. I'm not here on Tuesday. Just to let you know.
All right, everybody who's here, who is on this quorum, are they available sometime Tuesday?
Are you on it?
I'm not on it.
I guess it's just Kevin and Peter.
all right.
Yeah,
As far as I know,
yeah.
Then we're gonna have to make sure,
Okay, thank
we have to
you.
make sure, then we also have to make sure that Steve and
Steve and Maury.
Jamie.
And Jamie.
And Maury.
Um, and
Okay,
Thank you.
well, there we are. We don't have to do Cape Cod Road. That's quick.
Max, that was a good one.
So that's
Get it
gonna be
again.
Tuesday, the date is
Oh, this one.
Today's the 23rd. The 30th would be Wednesday. Tuesday would be the 29th.
So,
64 and Lot 77, Muskeget Road. And that's what all of you are here for. Am I correct?
Is this,
This is it. It's the four of us.
Courtney and I are leaving early. Thank you.
Who's in charge of the meeting?
Betsy's in charge.
Okay.
I'm in charge.
Take over, Betsy.
All right, do we remember, everybody remember what this is?
Oh, yes.
yes,
All right,
hard to forget.
well, I'm opening up the discussion then.
As I recall, the conservation issues were relatively trivial on this property. Concerned about erosion from prop wash. That's about the only thing I can remember. We had to
Yeah, I
ask
think
Ed
erosion-
Soundings on the plot.
Erosion from the corner from a potentially failed.
Right,
I mean, we
in that-
had testimony of that. It should be put in the,
Yes.
are you
Well-
taking notes, Mark?
Who should be responsible for repairing that? It's a joint,
Well, we just put that in.
just an
And then-
observation.
Yeah,
Yes, and as it was described to us, it would have been in the corner for
The northwest corner.
the other gentleman's name?
Mr. Cacciatorian,
Cacciatorian.
Lot 77.
Yeah, 577, 77 Muskeget Road.
Well, apparently the property line went right to that corner, so both properties are
No,
part of it.
well,
well, we don't have to say who's responsible.
We
We
just-
just say that corner, apparently there's a failed bulkhead, and there's water coming in and sediment
Bringing
coming in.
sediment.
And it was, I mean, it was clearly on the map, that was the shallowest
Yes.
Yeah.
corner.
And Betsy, there were a lot of contentions about who has the right to occupy the T docks and so forth, and that's not our consideration. We are concentrating on the conservation issues.
Correct.
Not who has the right to have their dock next to the other person's dock and so forth. That's kind of maybe a land dispute or something like that, but it's not.
Well, the selectmen might deal with that.
it's-
Well, yeah, and that's in order to, the next step for somebody who wants a dock, once they get permission from the Conservation Commission, is to go to the Board of Selectmen. And that's exactly what the Board of Selectmen are supposed to be dealing with,
Okay.
those kinds of issues.
Okay.
Good luck to the Board of Selectmen.
And I hate to tell you that, but that's how it works. I mean, our decisions are made based on
Conservation
I
rules.
understand that.
yeah,
I understand.
based on the facts and how it relates to our regulations and how those regulations are interpreted. I mean, we could make a stretch, but it would be a stretch, it would be very difficult to justify anything about, say, if things are too tight, there's safety issues, et cetera. But that's more the purview of the harbor master, and then in terms, yeah. But other than that, are there any conditions
Not that
that you?
I couldn't see anything with the proposed execution of the putting in of the dock itself.
I mean, standard dock stuff, they can't jet them in and that sort of thing, but
Yeah.
Yeah. The standard dock regulation. So,
I make a motion.
the standard special conditions,
for
as
a dock.
opposed to the standard conditions.
I make a motion to approve it.
Except as discussed.
Accept, yes,
Except
discuss.
the construction.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Got that? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you. Thank you for your participation.
Can I just say one thing?
No,
Nothing bad, nothing for the record, nothing bad, but where the water is coming in, that's on Mr. Cacciatorian's property, and on the Chapter 91 that he was approved for, part of that is he has to maintain the bulkhead. And the second little thing is the current dock is all styrofoam. I wasn't sure they were still allowed in the town. I thought they had to go into the tubs and away from the styrofoam.
well, the standard, when we talk about the standard special conditions for the docks,
Yes.
that will include that kind of information.
Okay.
What kind of materials are allowed, and how pilings can be put in. So, thank you for your participation.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Enjoy the whole long weekend.
That's right.
Warm, we hope.
It's not going to be.
Okay, 50 Bayview Avenue.
That was great. Moved the house back.
Save the trees.
Yeah, did a great job. Didn't have to do any mitigation, I guess. That's,
Yeah, but I mean, I would rather have those big trees saved than,
Yeah.
Madam,
well, as a condition, right, that,
yeah.
which they thought they could, so.
just, yeah, that was two of the concerns Jen had too. We were talking, concerned about the 14-inch oak to remain. That's on the north side of the property, because it is really close to the foundation. The other thing is about the two trees that are in the wells. And, one of the questions they had, is that wide enough for the well for the trees to survive? Because, the whole problem with burying tree roots is that they can't, you're basically snuffing out the roots that are getting the most nutrition for the tree. And they'd spoken to an arborist about that, and they were saying, well, it depends on the type of tree and all that, but what's important is, the larger you can get it, the better. The radius here is 5 feet for the trees, and, people I talked to are saying, it should be maybe 8 feet, 6 feet, minimum, to try to give them, a fighting chance. So, and it depends on how much, you could have a well there, but if you're piling it up, 5 feet high, then, those root systems are gonna have issues. But then they go back too and say, well, some trees you see that they should be dead, but then they survive. So maybe there should be a condition in there then, if they do not survive, then that they be replaced.
All right, yeah. Yeah, and we mentioned, we had discussed that especially that one between the two driveways,
Right. and
might
that-
have a problem, so that if it doesn't survive, it'd be replaced with,
But at least it doesn't get sawn out when they start
Yeah.
working, right?
yeah. Yeah, and if it has to be replaced, it has to be replaced, but there's still a tree there.
Right, and you could get an opinion from an arborist. I think that was one of the things Jen had
Wait a
mentioned
minute.
too, about what they would say, the arborist that they had.
Would we say it should survive 3 years or indefinitely? If it-
Well, yeah, but if something is in our jurisdiction, a tree is in our jurisdiction,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be there. If you go back 10 years, even though you got your certificate of compliance, there's still supposed to be a tree there.
But if
That tree was-
it dies,
And then you replace it.
I thought that tree was out of our jurisdiction.
It might be. I don't remember. I
That
thought
20-inch oak, which is
isn't
right
this
next to the
all in
driveway.
flood zone, though?
So the driveway's going back here.
Isn't it all in the flood zone?
I'm sorry, it's what?
It's all in the flood zone.
Yes.
No.
yeah.
Well,
It's not in the
AE
flood zone.
12. It's landward of it.
It's landward part of the flood zone?
That's the old plot, so it doesn't show the house in the right place. The house, but the tree
Yeah, it's
is,
AE 12. That's in our flood zone. That's,
it's not AE 13.
AE 13 is to this side of the line, AE 12
Oh,
here,
okay,
but it's
okay.
in the A
So it's
flood
in the flood
zone.
zone.
It is in the flood zone.
So what's, if the
Yes,
tree...
it is in our
If
jurisdiction.
the tree dies, it's the biggie, right? We don't put in 5 little ones.
No.
Do we want to
This would be a place that'd be 1-to-1.
Okay, so,
Right, we wrote that to indicate, if you took down three huge trees, you could replace 3 trees, right?
Right.
But if it were 50 inches of trees, and there were no other trees around, we would say, well, we want more trees, not
More.
just 3 trees.
Right.
That's why that was written. So it's up to the applicant to come and say, here's what the ratio is, we're taking 3 trees, but it's 50 caliper inches, so
Right.
we're gonna replace those with 5 3-inch trees.
so if they determine they have to take this tree out, do they have to come back to Jen and say, hey, or Jen
Yeah,
and
well,
Mark and
that's
say,
what
this
they
is what
would
we want to
normally do.
replace?
Yeah, that's
So
what they
that ought to be
normally- I mean, it would just be an
in the condition.
administrative approval.
Yeah.
But I see your
Right.
point, Mark, because, for example, if they decide to do the house, get it done in 2 years, they want compliance. 2 years probably wouldn't be enough to kill the tree.
That'll be the tricky thing. It won't die in the first 3 years if they,
Yeah, but that's,
job on the roots that are half the tree.
yeah, you do the best you can.
Right, do the best you can.
And there's supposed to be a tree there. So at some point, if they come back for something else, it's like,
A low bush blueberry. How about it?
yeah.
And how
Okay,
would- and how would you
did
want
we
the
vote?
How would you want the replacement to be done if it doesn't survive? Did you want to specify?
No, a comparable tree. I mean, if it's an oak now, isn't it?
I think it is, yes.
Yeah,
Or if it's just one tree?
yeah, that's what we're saying. It's only gonna be one well. You can't have that many trees in that area. Okay?
Did we vote on it?
Not yet, we haven't had a
okay.
motion.
I make a motion to accept it.
As discussed.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Got that, Susan?
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. T-ticket pack.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Susan or Mark, am I on the quorum? Maybe I missed one.
Was it last week, T-ticket?
Uh,
I can look it up.
No,
Oh, I'll look it
Yeah,
up.
you're on.
okay.
You're on the quorum here.
You better be, we can't vote.
Well, I attended at least one.
And I think we had two.
I thought these were all last week.
Well, they were, but they could have been
Uh-oh.
continuances.
Right, well, continued on the 21st of March, but then we,
Mark is on it, Peter's on it,
there you go.
Betsy's on it, and Kevin's on it.
Okay,
Good for that.
just checking.
It's all that counts.
And, let's,
How about Moon Penny?
that's, I'm checking.
That's Kevin, Betsy,
Uh-oh.
Mark. You're-
What's this?
Yeah, Kevin, uh-oh,
What?
Moon Penny we can't do.
What?
Peter wasn't on that.
Oops.
Yeah, you were on one of them.
Well, I attended the 16th meeting, but probably the
You weren't on
May
the first
2nd, no.
one. Okay, TJ the Cat. Comment.
Can I make a comment? So the landscape plan, because I looked over some of the stuff too, it's with blue flags. Again, there's no specification on spacing on the plants, and, as you look at the planting plan on the slope, especially up top, it seems rather sparse. So I would recommend doing a condition of, at least saying at least 4 to 5 feet on center, for the plantings.
Well, I think we discussed that. And her justification for the spacing is that when they grow to their full and mature form, they'll fill in that space.
Right, well, but that's part of the problem, because things do not they don't all stay alive. They don't necessarily replace them either, especially after compliance. And the number of years it takes for these things to grow together, that's the whole reason why we, started that 3 feet on center. Maybe that was a little bit too close, but that's what I was saying, 4 or 5 feet. And also, I don't come to the meetings that often, but I don't know how many times we kept saying about fragrant sumac. That's not on our list, and it just keeps putting it on the planting
But
plans.
wait a second, Mark. Are
Yep.
these your comments, or are these Jen's comments that we had before we closed the hearing?
Well, these are my comments.
Well, then, I appreciate your comments, but we can't take them now.
All right, but but my comments are irrelevant then, right?
Yeah.
But then
Well, no,
how
your comment about spacing is not irrelevant, but we can't suggest different kinds of plants that we didn't discuss.
All right, so the plantings you had were all acceptable? Because I thought there was a change on the planting plan. Because it went,
Well, then, whatever's the most recent plan is the plan that we're accepting.
all right, and all I'm asking then, so is the recent plan, does that match what changes you asked for in the first? I don't know what was said.
Yeah, it did. We discussed that.
Yeah.
All right, so you feel that the changes were incorporated as you had
Yeah,
asked? All right.
yeah, we did. We discussed that last week.
According to my notes, they had eliminated some patios, and they are still improving the slope, which is not required, so.
Yeah.
They couldn't count the patio space. That wasn't a permitted patio. So couldn't claim that was reduced impervious
right.
area. And, as I said during the meeting, I liked what she did on the hill. I know some of you guys had problems with it, but, you know, all the pitch pines in there, which nobody ever plants a pitch pine.
Yeah, I mean, the discussion last week was, I mean, I think Maury's concern was that there were things that were crossed out the first time that aren't shown at all the second time.
And still, some of the oaks are still being crossed out.
Right, but they went back and identified each of these in the
Yes,
field,
specifically.
so.
The only thing I got concerned about is something was going on up here. They were going to put in some trees, they decided not to.
They decided to leave the arborvitae's that were there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what had changed. They were gonna put trees along here, and they decided to leave the arborvitae's.
Oh, that right along here. Okay. Right, so then there's a line of shrubs in front of it.
Right.
That's fine. To me, it is fine.
Okay?
That's with the trees that were to be removed, was it 3, 6, 9, 12, 13?
Yeah. We discussed those at some length
Yeah.
last week.
Are they native trees or invasive? or-
They're trees that have been pruned almost to death.
Some have been repeatedly pruned, really outrageous.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to accept it as discussed.
Second.
Motion and a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. We can't do Moon Penny.
When does it have to wait? Could it be done on,
Yeah, at the same time, yeah.
okay.
And 390 and 402 Wild Harbor Road. That was just the ANRAD.
Yes.
And I don't think we had any comments. Mark worked with the
Right.
people, and we waited months and months and months until things unthawed, and
Well, part of the problem was the plan before, there had been wetland lines done over the years too. The wetland line they had did not match. I mean, there's a good portion of it that did, but it's the portion right up that would influence the project more than any place else, near the tennis court. So that kept getting pushed because we had that big freeze, and they couldn't do this hydric soil sampling. So put it off, and then when it got warmer, you know, it's standing water like this still. And, well, to make a long story short, they just said, all right, we're gonna go with that, which, I mean, verifies the wetland lines from the previous two orders of the property. And they made the other adjustments that were needed on the ocean side. So I would recommend approval of the wetland resource areas that were requested by the applicant's representative.
yeah, that's what
and the
this
current plan.
was. Okay, could I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept it as discussed.
I second.
Oh, motion
go.
and a second. Everybody in favor of the motion on the table, which is to accept this as presented and discussed? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Could I just mention, you're going to have that meeting on Tuesday, and we have the coastal resiliency at 4 o'clock that day, so do you know what time you would be doing that?
So Jamie will be,
Jamie's in that too.
Jamie's in that,
And Jen
and Jen.
and me.
I don't know, I'm not here. I'm on a plane.
Has it been typically easier to do it in the morning before work, or is it, you guys usually do it at night?
I think for
I think
Jamie
Jamie likes it before work.
and Maury too.
Yeah.
Well, if it
Of
comes
course,
to
they
that,
both start work at 7.
if it comes to that, I'm only available in the evening. I have that coastal resiliency, and I have something else in the morning. But there's many more of us, so.
Well, I don't know how many there are, that's the
Well, it
problem.
depends on, yeah, how many.
Let's look. So what are the ones we need? Moon Penny?
Moon Penny and,
Cape Cod.
Cape Cod.
And lot 110.
So Peter, you're out of it. Mark, you couldn't do it.
I don't think I could do.
Could be Steve, yeah, you could. Steve, Jamie, Maury, Kevin.
She's got me on as there?
Yeah.
I guess so, okay, well, I didn't have that paperwork, that was interesting. I don't hop there, but that's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'll just have to figure out, you just have to call Maury and Jamie and see when it's best for them. And what's the other one? Cape Cod.
The Cape Codder. That's,
Peter, Kevin, Jamie, Maury. So Maury's crucial. No, you were there that day.
on the first year that was there.
Yeah.
Well, Steve is available too for the,
Well, I'm available
Oh, no, I
anytime
don't.
Tuesday.
Just thinking
Because
that-
people go, oh.
Jen had the offer of that being in that meeting, in fact. And I looked over my records, and said, I was there. So I gave me all, she guessed, I guess she wrote that in.
Maury and Steve.
Well, no, I do these.
You did that.
well, we
I do
got,
this,
You're the clerk? Is that-
I guess that's what I'm called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was the clerk of our sewer commission in Mashpee, I didn't do anything, literally.
Oh,
We didn't,
I just keep track, but I didn't, if I went through, all I would do is say the three of us were on, then I'd continue our names, but if
Who else is available?
Kevin wasn't on, I'd just leave it blank,
And more.
okay, then,
Okay.
and that's four. So now I just put a line on the second hearing. If I'm not on it, there's just a line, and if you're on it, and you're there, I put your name, but because you weren't at the first meeting.
Jeff,
Did anybody have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, did we discuss any other business?
No,
Does anybody have any other business to discuss?
no, Kevin, no other business.
I make a
Oh,
motion
make
to
a motion.
adjourn.
A second.
Kevin made that. Would you second it?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.